It's always that couple of seconds between going and YouTube actually connecting us. There
And
we
he
go.
says, "We're
What's
live,"
up, profitable
and we've
stylists?
already
We
been
are
live
live.
for like 30 seconds.
For 3 minutes.
We have special guest. Oh no, we have account supervisor Elizabeth Suarez hanging out with us this week from
Yeah.
enCOMPASS, and she's going to be teaching us and explaining to us all kinds of marketing tips, interactive marketing tips from enCOMPASS. Look at that, the
What?
advertising agency to the salons.
Yeah. So what is
Bernard
enCOMPASS?
wears that shirt. Bernard wears
Every
that shirt 7 days a week. He's
7 days,
6 of
because I
those.
got 7 of them. So we were at the same hair show recently, and I said I need 6 shirts, and she didn't want to give them to me, and she's like, "So who are they for? Like your staff?" I said, "No, they're all for me because
They're for every day of the week.
listen. You guys are a great marketing company, but don't think that it's the name or the service that made me. It's the freaking material. This thing is so comfortable. I mean, it's
And we
not.
will be selling them for $20 after this
Yeah.
podcast.
It's so comfortable. I don't wear it to work every day, but I do wear it a lot because it's so stretchy. I don't like the fake materials that are like the wick with no, supposedly don't sweat, because they kind of hold the heat in, and I feel more hot. All cotton is a little too light. This is like a blend. I swear, I love the material. This shirt. All
Dude,
right.
we thought we were talking about marketing. We're talking about shirts today.
Yeah, right.
You can get me to wear your shirt more. I mean, isn't that marketing?
That's true. That's all that it was.
Tell me, what is enCOMPASS? How did you guys get started? What is it in a nutshell? And then we'll dive down some deeper rabbit holes in some specific areas. Who are you,
Yeah,
and what is enCOMPASS?
great. So I'll start with enCOMPASS. enCOMPASS is a full-service digital marketing company. We work with all kinds of clients. But then we got about 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we started getting involved with the hair business. So there was Barbara. She was very familiar with the hair business, was buying TV, and then realized like there is no digital presence in the hair restoration industry. We got to get the word out there. And at the time, she met Jerry, who's our owner, and we kind of came connected. And I was hired 6 and a half years ago, to kind of take over all the accounts because we started getting so many studios across the country. And I took over the accounts about 6.5 years ago, and we've grown. I mean, we're the largest agency for the hair restoration industry. We work with dozens of studios across the country, which kind of gives us a lot of cool insights on what the studios are doing, how they're performing, all that good stuff.
So that's what I noticed about enCOMPASS, Eddie, is that I've been doing hair for 30 years, in and out of hair shows and different types of. Oh man, Eddie's boss Darren has been on calls with me and my business partner RJ, and we will talk to someone who is a Facebook expert or a marketing expert, and we get on the phone with them and we start trying to explain what we do. Now we throw extensions in the mix also. We sell and do hair extensions, and when we talk about hair replacement, they have no idea. You can just tell they're kind of guessing. They're like, oh well, business is business. All businesses are marketed the same, and they're not. And so some have done a little better than others. And so when I went to a couple of shows and started realizing, and I hate to do this to you, but there's very few. I was going to say there's one or two other competitors of yours, but not many, that kind of focus in the hair business, because people realize, like you realize, the hair business is kind of an animal of its own, and you really have to know it. And so we've even tried some of those other ones, didn't have much success. But I think it's coming up right up on a year, isn't it? We started right this time a year ago,
About a year ago, yeah.
putting the thing together. And I think we were going to launch. You guys are very conservative, and I like that, because you said we're going to launch like January 1st. But I think we got all our stuff together early enough, and we actually ended up launching somewhere in December instead. So right about now. And the goal, now I'll say this right up front. You guys are not cheap, but you do get what you pay for. So that was the stretch for us. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because that was the thing. Our salon's not a tiny salon, but it's not huge. And so we were like on the brink of being able to afford something like this. And not that, I don't know if you guys do salons specifically, but we have a salon and we have a hair replacement studio kind of connected to the salon. But we also sell hair extensions. And so when we got with you guys, we were like, hey, we want to promote our hair replacement because I've heard about you from other hair replacement studios. And that's the power in this. There were testimonies. There were other hair replacement studios that like, well, yeah, if you're going to market in the hair replacement business, you got to talk to enCOMPASS or this one or this one. And there was 2 or 3. So I was talking to 2 or 3 guys, and you guys seemed to have it the most together, the most comprehensive. And some of these other guys that seemed like they were less expensive weren't given as much. And then when you got the more things, I was like, well, what about this? And what about this? By the time we put it all together, they were more expensive than you guys. So you ended up not being the most expensive when you really compared apples to apples. But you also didn't allow me to do less, so I couldn't start with a little cheaper, like, why don't we just have this little piece here?
Yeah, but if you think about it, Bernard, how much complaining do I do to you about the advertisements? Elizabeth, I tear all of our advertisements apart, all of our campaigns. It's usually it comes to be like me versus Darren, and then it's me versus Darren and Bernard, and then it's like me versus Darren, Bernard, and RJ, and I'm the only one on this side saying, no, it's got to be like this, and the 3 of them are like, dude, this is what we have to work with. Just shut up already,
Well, Bernard, this is where Bernard and I always go back and forth, but I tell him it's not expensive because he is getting a return on his investment. So I think the first shift is seeing marketing as an investment rather than an expense.
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening when you go into the cheap route is then you are just wasting money. Because the cool thing about what we've done is like we've gotten so much data on kind of what is the sweet point of budgets. So can we go below, let's say you start at $600 search campaign, it's not going to give you enough to start generating that interest. So what ends up happening is you start throwing money with other companies, it doesn't stick, and then you start disbelieving in the marketing. But when it's done right, marketing really pays for itself. There shouldn't be an expense tied to it because, Bernard, as you know, you're going to get the leads every month, and they're going to be qualified. So if you can close them, it's going to pay for what you're spending.
So I'll say this. You know how you know what's a good example for that, Bernard? And for everybody listening, you buy a spray and you try it. Yeah, like for a hair styling,
like hair spray, water spray.
Right. Yeah, right. So some thermal protector, some leave-in, something, and it doesn't work. So then you go try another one, and that doesn't work. And then you go try another one, and that doesn't work. If you don't stick with something for an X amount of time to actually give it a chance to do the results, how are you going to know? And by the end of it all, you've ended up spending 3-4 times the amount of what you could have spent if you just stayed with one program and a regiment that actually had something to it.
And that's kind of the second part of what I was going to bring up right now. You're right. So that's kind of where I was going, was with the cheaper routes where people would allow me to pay just a little bit to do this or just to do that. I kind of liked that you guys were like, well, if you just want to do that, we don't really want to work with you because you're not going to see the success. You're just going to whine and complain later that it didn't work. And we don't really want to deal with the not working part. And so part of it was how much Google AdWords is a big part of it. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. So they got to a point where I think I was maybe talking with you or Ashley, and we were talking about how much do you have to spend a month on your Google AdWords? And she says $1,200. And I was like, whoa, why 12? Can't we do less? Well, part of it is because you guys have worked with hair replacement studios across the country. You've got a rough idea of where the minimum is to get anything for your money. Sure, you can do less. Google will let you spend $1 or $2 or whatever, right? And so, my business partner's first question was, how much does that actually go into AdWords and how much is your fee? Because you guys have to make money. And I think maybe 200 of it was your fee, 200 or 300. So it was around $900 or $1,000 a month we were going to be spending on Google AdWords. And this is where it all changed for us, Eddie. We are talking about marketing or advertising. And the only way we had ever advertised in the past was we would put the kind of ads out there that hopefully it went to a crowd of people. We didn't know who needed what we wanted. We would just put it out there to a bunch of people on Facebook or Instagram and hoped that they were like, oh, I'm bald, I need hair, I'm going to call them. Instead, I had never used Google AdWords before. And that's where enCOMPASS, now they do a lot more than just Google AdWords, but that's where we started with them. Of course, we revamped our website, made a big difference. But Google AdWords is where people are already going in looking for something specific. They are already having trouble with their hair and they're typing in. And this is where enCOMPASS is an expert in experience. They're typing in hair loss, hair replacement, hair extensions, toupee, balding. And enCOMPASS works with enough other people like me. They already know the words people are typing in, but I don't even know the word for this. But what's the opposite of AdWords? Is it called minus words, subtract words? No, really.
The opposite.
Because
what do you mean the opposite of AdWords?
It's called failure.
Oh,
that's the opposite of AdWords.
He's talking about negative keywords.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Okay. Tell us about that, because I had never heard of that before, and that was super important. Because when we got involved with you guys, we were just on the end of a campaign trail where President Trump really threw a mess up in the hair world because everybody was typing in something about Trump's hair. So if they typed in like does Trump have a toupee? The word toupee would come up in so many searches. And when people search for Trump or toupee, we would have to pay for that if we had started a year earlier. And enCOMPASS had the experience to know, like, put it in as is it called a negative word? Like if they,
I like minus word. I'm gonna minus word. I like that one. So negative keywords essentially is a keyword you tell for your campaign. Hey, when this keyword shows up, let's not spend money on it. And he's right. I mean, toupee is a good example of that. When Trump was in office, towards the later half, it's like if a lot of people are searching, they're not really going to be a good client. They're just searching that because they want to know if Trump is wearing a toupee. So you kind of tell your campaign, don't spend any money on this. And that's kind of, I think that's what, we talk about interactive marketing intelligence, which is a term we trademark. That's really what it means. It's not a
You really did trademark that term.
We really did. Check it out.
I thought you were joking.
I'm not joking. It's trademarked by interactive marketing intelligence.
Okay.
Look it up. It's trademarked. We're the real deal over here.
Marketing intelligence.
So that's kind of the approach is you're not setting and forgetting it. You're kind of actively looking at what is the campaign doing? How is it optimizing? And then it's going to continue to optimize around those keywords that are getting you those phone calls and those form submissions.
Let me ask you this way. So Bernard has some experience with you guys. I don't have any experience with you guys. Who would be the ideal salon, or who would be the ideal studio to research you, to seek your services out?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. We work with all kinds of studios. I would say it's the studios that are now ready to really take things to the next level. So with the hair restoration industry, we kind of created a template website, which is, you're still going to get your own copy. You're still going to get your own images, colors, logo, but it's a template site that we know works essentially and has gotten us conversions. I think, Bernard, you're on that one. It's at a cheaper rate than a custom site. We kind of go about a subscription package is how we look at it. Websites become obsolete in 2 years. And so you end up paying, 10 grand for this website. And then 2 years later, nobody's maintaining it. You've got security, you've got hacks. So we kind of moved away from that model because of the hair restoration industry. Because a lot of these small business owners and salon owners don't have $10,000 to pay up front. So we are in a subscription model. So just somebody who's willing to start seeing that commitment on advertising. And then what we also did is kind of set up stepping stools, which we talked to Bernard a lot about. The website is the foundation of your marketing. It's your digital storefront, right? But the way I always explain it is you didn't open your salon and sit down and say, okay, I'm ready for people to come in, right? You had to get your word out. So a great website is step one, but it's not the end all be all. You still have to start promoting your site. And then that's where search engine marketing comes in. And that's really kind of, I call it the net that catches all the fish. I think the stat is this year is 97% of all experiences begin with the search online. So even if you open your phone, you're searching, right? Very little are people nowadays going to www.stagehairstudio.com. They're going to go on Google on stage, and then they're going to click on Google or some people still use Yahoo Bing. But so that's really the core of it is you want to make sure that no matter what, you are present when people are searching. And of course, Google's this giant monster and everybody's on Google. Everybody's using Google. So it's super important that you are active when somebody's searching. And then some of the other things that Google has done this year is they've really taken up that real estate of organic traffic, essentially. So before, you used to get like 2 ads at the top, then you used to get organic listings, basically listings you don't pay for. Now Google has, I think, moved to like 3-4 ads, the map pack, and then there's organic. So if you're not really actively paying for these keywords, you're probably not going to show up as often. So it's super important that you have that search engine marketing turned on with a really good website to start everything.
So let me translate this different language that she's speaking a little bit.
If you're not on page 1 and if you're not in the top 10, you ain't going to get seen.
Well,
is there some insane statistic? Like if like only 10% go to page 2 and then nobody goes to page 3 of the search?
Yeah, we have a joke that says, you know, where do you hide a dead body? And we say the second page of Google, because nobody's going to look at it. Nobody goes on there.
Not even the 3rd or 4th page, right?
Forget about it.
No, you can hide 10 there. Yeah. So yeah, it's super important now to start kind of spending that money to get yourself up there.
So that's a good point. I just wrote a few notes because I wanted to kind of keep it organized in my head. Eddie, this is kind of where I got impressed with Elizabeth as I talked to her, because first things first, you hear about a website like, oh, you got to have a website. So many people don't even have websites anymore. They'll use a Facebook page as a website. And that might be okay for some businesses. But the first thing Elizabeth said is you've got to have a website. And when I heard template, you know, the first thing I think of is cheap, maybe not work as good, but it's similar to the hair replacement world. 90% of the people I put hair on, I put a stock system on, not a custom system. I customize a stock system. So it ends up being custom. It's what's going to work best for them. And the thing about, and this is the exact same thing about the website, the thing about a stock system is when you call up to get a hair system made and you're going to make it custom and you're going to specify all these requirements, and then 6 months later you need another one for that same client, that it can be the exact same specifications, but you might get a different technician making it, so it's not going to be exactly the same. So when you get a stock system, that system is made by the same person over and over, so many are made, there's actually more consistency and quality in the stock hair system than there is in custom over time. And so when she says a template website, there is savings in that because it's made over and over again, but it's also changed over time to stay. I've got my puppy here at work and he's trying to creep in there and go see what you stay right there, boy. So with the website, it's the same thing. They've used the same one for hair replacement studios across the country, and it doesn't matter that it's a template or stock per se, because I'm not using it nationwide. So it doesn't matter if somebody else in another state's using the exact same one. It doesn't look the same because I'm not good at the aesthetics, so my wife chooses, but she chose maybe the fonts, if they changed it, the colors, a little bit of the layout. There's still specifications that go on within that stock system. I mean, that stock system or stock website. So your website looks great. It's a really nice looking website. And we already had a website. And so it is way better than the one we had. So the next sphere, I know you want to talk, Eddie, but just give me a few more seconds. The other
I'll be back.
I was like, wait, you want to redo our website? You're going to close it and we're going to lose all the whatever. And this is my favorite word I learned from you guys. You know what word I'm going to use? Google.
What is it?
It's called Google something.
Google juice.
Google juice. And so they're like, you're not going to lose your Google juice. And I'm like, my what? Is that trademark too?
That's what we call a Google. No, that's not. We should, though. We should trademark that. I'll let Jerry on that one.
So I was worried we were losing our old website and opening a new one, and we would lose, I didn't know what to call it, but lose all this Google juice over here. And she's like, no, you will not lose any of your Google juice. And I don't know how, but they explained to me how we'll leave it open right up till this one's created. And as soon as we open this one, we close this one and something. I don't know, but you don't lose the juice. And so that was good to know. And all it did was get better. So we had a better website that worked better with people. And then like she said, instead of spending the time and energy spending a whole lot of extra money making it custom, they can now spend the time and energy to continue to improve it. And those same improvements work for everybody across the country as they need to fix something. Go, Eddie. You had something to say?
What was I going to say now?
Well, good. I'll go on to my next topic.
No, I look at a template like this. You know, a lot of people think templates are like how you were saying, right? But it's not. A template is put together because it is tried, tested, and proven.
Tried and true. Yep.
Tried and
That's
true.
Right.
Yeah.
It works for the great majority of the people. And I love what you're saying, that the first step is the website, because it really is your identity and your individual personality. I get into this a lot with people and they say, oh, I don't, you know, like how you were saying, Facebook page or something else. They're on somebody else's platform using a small section of their platform to show themselves off. You're just getting lost in the crowd. You're not standing out in any kind of way. There is a huge impactful difference when I go to, you know, www.bernard.com or onstage.com versus going to Facebook and then trying to find how to get to your page inside of, you know, somebody else's thing. And then building off of that, you can control how you get your positioning up on Google's.
You made him lose his train of thought on that one.
No, I'm done.
Learned a new word with Elizabeth, a lot of new words. One is citation services.
Yeah.
Citation services?
Yeah, Eddie, do you know what that one is, Mr. Computer Guy? Whoa. Yeah, I had never heard of it either.
All right.
And so what made me think of it is you just said when you go and type in www, they don't type that in anymore. If they want to know about you or me, they go and they type in Bernard, you know, or On Stage Hair, and they type in On Stage Hair, and then the Google juices show them where to go. And where do they end up? And citation services helps with this, but I'll let the expert explain what citation services is.
Yeah, and to kind of go off a point that Eddie made real quick before we jump to citation, I think a lot of people want their Facebook page or their social media presence to be their HubSpot. And it should really, what we always tell our clients is that everything should funnel back to your website. Because you're going to, with the short attention span that people have nowadays, you know, they can be on your Facebook page and then they get a message from their sister and it's a picture of their nieces and nephews, and you've lost them within seconds. And they're not going to remember how to get back to your Facebook page or even remember why they were on your Facebook page to begin with. So we even have moved social media icons to the bottom, to the footer of your website. Because once you have them on your website, you've got them where you want them. That is where they should be. But citation services, essentially, there's hundreds of publishers, and publishers are any website that has your name, your address, and your phone number. So the core information of your business. And if your information is not accurate across all those publishers, you start getting shown less. It's kind of what they call a ranking factor.
Or even consistent.
Yeah. So suite numbers, you know, is your phone number the same? Has it changed? So what citation services does, it kind of automates that process and ensures it pushes out through all these publishers that information is correct. And that's kind of a core factor for your business to be found organically and even to be found on the map on Google to make sure that your information is correct, your address, your phone number, all that good stuff. That's super important too. And that's kind of, you know, when we talk about the 5 foundations for your hair market, we have an ebook about this. But there's search engine marketing, website, you got to have citation services. Something that we haven't even kind of covered yet, but is a drip campaign. So we, as enCOMPASS, came up, you know, over time, we kept having the same conversations with hair studio owners. You know, how many times did you follow up with this lead? You know, my leads aren't closing. What are you doing to close that lead? Well, I called them and they didn't answer me. I marked that lead as not qualified. But the truth is, like, they could have filled out that form at night when they were by themselves in their couch, and then you called them when they were in front of their friends, and it's a sensitive topic. They didn't want to talk about it then, or they didn't want to answer. So now you deem that lead as dead. But in reality, all of our research has shown that it can take up to 2 years for somebody that's suffering from hair loss to actually convert from that first time they submitted the form or the phone call, or however that first contact shows. So we at enCOMPASS kept hearing this from our clients, and we're like, all right, let's come up with something that can do kind of a little bit of that heavy lifting. So this is what we call a drip campaign. So we created a series of 28 emails. The copy's already written. Like the first half comes from the owner. And the owner kind of says, I'm done reaching out. And then a representative comes in. So somebody at your studio. And then there's blog topics, before and after images. But these emails, why it's called drip, is because they slowly start coming out up until 2 years. So you're sending contact information to that person 2 years into that first time that they submitted a form to you. So it's a really crucial way to make sure that you're staying in front of people who may not be ready. And I hear, from my clients all the time, like, here, this lead came from 2019 and they just converted. And it's so cool to see, removing them from that drip campaign years later. But that's another one that's super important. And then, do you guys have any questions on that?
Is that part of the service? Is that what you guys provide?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very inexpensive, considering everything. We're at $100 a month just to get those emails going. Because, we talk about it, the copy's already written. So we send it to you to review just to make sure it makes sense. But we know what works. So it's like, it's coming from, we'll change out the footer, it's your information, your contact. We put a picture of the owner, a picture of the representative. But it's such a good way to stay in front of somebody who may not be ready to convert right away.
And they can be so inexpensive on that because they found a system that works. So I don't care if they're using the exact same emails in Chicago and in New York and California and Nebraska. My clients have never seen those emails. The email still starts with the name of my business, On Sage Hair Studio, and ends with my salon coordinators, the one checking up on them, or I am in the end of the email. I don't even have to do any work to make it happen. I just have to pay $100 a month, and it just happens. And every month that we're getting new leads, that list is growing. That's getting emailed to. So that's really cool.
That's a great point that I didn't kind of explain. So when we manage your website, we're essentially, anytime somebody's submitting an email, immediately they're getting put into that drip campaign. So the first email goes out from the minute they submit that form, because you want to be able to reach out to them right away. And it's like, thank you for reaching out. A representative will be in touch. So it's really a quick way to get in touch. And then I think the next one is 3 days, 7 days. And then the longer they're in this, what we call journey, the further apart the emails get. But they're still, kind of staying top of mind in that person's space.
That's such a great service, because Bernard recently posted a live. I think it was a live you did, Bernard. And you were saying how many, do you have a few clients? Do you have some clients, or do you have many clients, right? And right. I think one of the traps that a lot of hairdressers fall into is they're busy. They're busy at work, and then they got to go home, and then they're busy at home, and they're up really late. They're up really early. They're up on the weekends. They don't have necessarily, they're contained with what they have now. They don't have enough time to look towards the future to grow. And the rule of business universally is you always need new business because your current business will get old, they'll move, they'll die, they'll just stop coming, something happens. So you always need new business to replace and to retain your current level of business. So being able to follow up with leads like that in itself is super powerful.
It really is. And let me, Elizabeth, make sure I'm telling the truth here. I'm gonna put out an opinion here that this is next level stuff. And if we could curse, I would not say stuff, but this is next level stuff. I don't curse like Eddie does, but at this next level stuff, I would say this is not for the average salon. I mean, I might be wrong, but what I want to say is that it's not inexpensive. It's not ridiculously expensive, but it's that next level where we talk on this Two Guys Chat about being a profitable stylist. Eddie is the profitable stylist. And so you probably are not going to need enCOMPASS if you're just doing haircuts and color and highlights. This is for that next level where you're moving into more expensive services and you are doing a few. To give you an example, when you do a color or highlight consultation, you sell 9 out of 10, maybe 19 out of 20. When you do hair replacement consultations, you sometimes only sell 2 or 3 out of 10. It's okay that a few say no, because you're making so much more on each client. It's a little more specialty, takes a little more training. You're making more money. So you're thinking, oh man, I did 2 or 3. So that's where I'm at. I teach some hair replacement classes, some extension classes. I've got a few people starting to get into these services. They've done 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 clients. And now they're like, well, I've kind of exhausted my sphere of influence. And now I'm not getting any new hair replacement clients. This is when enCOMPASS comes in my opinion. This is where you're like, you know what? I think I'll bite the bullet, spend a few dollars a month, bring in some clients. And at first, it's kind of a wash. You're spending a little bit of money and you're gaining clients. But what happens is when they come in for service, you're in the positive. You're making money. Maybe each month you'll make money. But if nothing else, the second year, you really start making money.
RJ says it the best. It's the difference between being busy versus being productive.
He said that in a comment?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And that's really that's really a good way of saying it, because just as you were saying, selling 9 out of 10 consults for color keeps you busy. Yeah, you're making money, but it really is just keeping you busy. Selling 3 out of 10 hair replacements is really productive.
So we kind of glazed over. The map pack. I want to talk about that a little bit. But citation, we talked a lot about it. And just to kind of clear it up a tiny bit, Eddie, earlier you talked about the www thing, and we talked about people don't do that. They type in a name. And if your name, when we were doing it for me, they were calling me saying, what do you want your name to be? You're just Bernard in some places, Bernard Ori in other places. In some places, you have your home address. Some places you have your hair replacement studio as your address. Some you have your salon address. What suite do you want across the board? So they made sure that my name, address, title was exactly the same anywhere somebody would search for me. So all of the places that have me listed would all point to the same place, which was the website. So it just made our website have more traffic, which was a lot of fun. But on the website is our phone number, right? So this is cool, Eddie. There's another service they provide before we go into the map pack. Somebody clicks, well, too many of our clients just do it because it's the easy way. They're like, oh, what's the salon's phone number? They look me up, they find the website, they click the call now. They call. If they call through the website on their phone, the phone call is recorded. And on the dashboard, I can go on there and I can listen to my salon coordinator talking to anybody who calls through the website every single month.
Yeah, so that is something we do through our search engine marketing. So there's a couple things that make our search engine marketing different than anybody else. One is we're focused on conversions. So your campaign, Bernard kind of talked about 2-year mark starting. Your campaign's learning from itself all the time. So it's in a very simple way of putting it. Let's say hair restoration was a keyword, and then hair loss replacement was another keyword. If the campaign starts seeing hair restoration is getting more people to click on it, submit a form, and call, and hair loss replacement is getting clicks, but people aren't submitting the forms, people aren't picking up the phone, the campaign is going to say, wait a minute, I want to put more of the budget into hair restoration, because at the end of the day, what matters is those conversions. So that's one thing that's really different than just like throwing 100 keywords in there and letting the campaign kind of spend out. It's constantly learning from itself. And then the other thing is what Bernard was talking about is we listen and categorize phone calls, which is really next level. There's not a lot of companies, if any, that are currently doing that for search engine marketing. We have a call analyst team. So anytime somebody clicks on your ad from Google or Yahoo or Bing, because we also do it on multiple search engines, that we get that phone call recorded. Then our team is going to analyze the call and say, this was a sales lead. This was an existing client. But what a lot of business owners have told me is like, it gives you an insight on like how your people are answering the phone calls. So if you're not closing those leads, go back into our dashboard and listen to why not. And they'll have notes in there. So they'll say call was on hold for 20 minutes. Well, who wants to be on hold for 20 minutes? That person hung up. It was a very valuable lead, but now you have to work internally on how am I closing these leads when they're calling? Is the right person answering the phone call? If we start seeing that people are calling after hours, is your voicemail set up to really make sure that that person leaves a message? Like all these things that kind of are next level insight to it's not just all about marketing. Right? Because marketing can be killer, but if you can't close that lead when they come in, then it's all for nothing. And that's one of the things we always kind of interview our clients, even prospects that want to work with us, is we want to make sure that you're set up internally that if we turn this thing on, you can handle those leads, because then it's a waste of money for you. Right. So that's kind of what Bernard was talking about. And our clients love that, just being able to go in. And then we also don't just tell you, you got 20 phone calls as well. You got 20 phone calls, and out of those, 15 were leads, 5 were existing clients, or 2 were hangups, however we kind of categorize that. And it really gives you that next level aspect to your marketing.
How is that communication set up? They have an account rep. So I have an account rep who is meeting up with me once a month or once a week or once a something to generate these reports and explain to me what's going on?
It's on a dashboard.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on the dashboard.
It's on the but you do. So we have what we call account managers. So every person that works with us has an account manager that they work directly with. Ashley is Bernard's.
Ironically, my account rep is on the phone with my business partner while we're on this live.
Yeah.
And she's disappointed that I'm not on the call with them this time because we're doing this. And Elizabeth is her boss. So Elizabeth said that sometimes Bernard has more important things to do.
Right. You know, it is what it is at this point. Shout out to Ashley and RJ. Ashley is amazing. So Ashley is like RJ, such a numbers person. You know, she's a pretty blonde, and so when you're looking at her and talking, you think she might care about the aesthetics on the website, and then she starts spitting out numbers, and we're like, I don't even understand. Thank God she's talking to RJ, because she's like, well, the numbers show, and then this percentage and that percentage, and I'm like, wow. She's not just a pretty blonde. she's really good. The account manager, to your question, Eddie, will sit with you. I mean, we like to get on a call every month, but Bernard knows you can call us anytime. You know, if you got a question, you want to talk about something, but we'll walk through and go through your reporting, because we don't expect you to understand every number. That's what we're here for.
That's what I was getting
not
ready
everybody's to say. Like RJ, he's saying that understands every number.
And everything we're talking about. I mean, I've got a list of things we haven't even covered yet. And I mean, when you start thinking about it all, I was overwhelmed in the beginning between the website, citation, map, AdWords, drip, phone, recordings. I thought, the dashboard has it all, but I hardly ever check the dashboard. It's overwhelming to me. But if I need to find something, it's there. But I know some of the people I've met that work with you guys, I forget what his name is. He said, I can't wait a month. I meet with Ashley, every week or every other week or something?
Yeah.
For us, we don't call Ashley. She calls us like, hey, guys, we need to meet again. It's about once a month, but we forget because we're just blowing and going, you know. And so, ironically, it's happening right now. But she keeps up with, and because I wanted to know a little bit more, I text Ashley. I text her when I make a sale and how much that sale paid. And she just on her own, on the side, started an Excel spreadsheet probably, and she tracks the name of the client and how much they paid. So she's got a little more data, and hey, it works for them because she can say, you can't tell me that it's not working. The feeling doesn't matter. I know, here it is. This is how much you collected last month because you text me. And I want her to track it if she wants to. So it's
and I think you made a great point, especially with us. We don't consider clients. It's a partnership, and it's only as strong as like that client is willing to really give us information. And what ends up happening is data is great because we're all emotional people, right? So you can feel like you had a bad month. I've had calls with clients like it was a terrible month. I was like, well, how many new sales did you have? Well, 12. I was like, well, how many did you have last year? Well, 5. I'm like, well, you're up year over year. This is fantastic. So it's almost a good reality check with each other to make sure that, you know, we are keeping, we're keeping that focus on what matters, which is that ROI, those numbers. And then the other thing that, you got, Bernard, you can attest to, and Eddie, you too, our industry's so cyclical. So one of the biggest mistakes that people make is, my November wasn't as good as my October, or my October wasn't as good as my September. You got to be very, very careful with that because our business is never, a straight line. It fluctuates. So we like to compare data year over year. And that's really what our big focus is how are you last November? Are you up? Are you down? Let's talk about revenue. Let's talk about new sales. So that's really what the value in having, you know, an account manager like Ashley, like our other account managers, is that we're going to have those conversations far beyond what your campaign is doing.
And this is mainly then done through web searching and things like that. Is there any other advertising that supports any of the web stuff, the search stuff?
Yeah, we do full service digital marketing, so online video, social media, display advertising, email marketing. I mean, we can do a million different things in the digital realm.
And
it
you
just
guys
kind of
build
depends.
all of that out.
Yeah, we'll do those campaigns out. So it just depends on where you're at as a business and what logically makes sense. Because one of the things that we always look at is, you know, okay, I've got $3,000 a month to spend on marketing. Well, let's talk about how you're going to get the best bang for your buck. And I will say, every studio owner comes to me, like, I want to be on Facebook. That is, I mean, they don't even ask about Google Ads. Everything is, I want to be on Facebook. I want to be on Instagram. And Instagram and Facebook are great for what they are, but they shouldn't be kind of your foundation to your marketing. They're a good awareness tactic. They're going to get you in front of people in your local area, but they're not going to be the end all be all, because even when somebody sees you on Facebook, they're still going to go and search for you after. So if you don't have a strong search campaign, you're kind of just throwing money on a wall and hoping it sticks. And so that's kind of what we guide our people that come and want to work with us, is let's talk about what makes sense for where you're at right now in your business.
As a matter of fact, we just went to a meeting they had, and we talked about, we do Google AdWords because, like she said, there's so many things you can do. Google AdWords, Facebook, Instagram, phone book, newspaper, obviously not anymore. But I mean, you know, to give you that, there's all these different places you can put your money and hope people see you and want to come to you. But if you had to organize them all, what is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck? And I didn't know that it would be Google AdWords when we talked. But to me, it made sense because every other marketing or advertising is just hoping. You're putting it out in front of 100 people hoping one of them's bald. But when you're doing Google AdWords, you're saying, hey, Google, I'll pay if somebody asks about the thing I want to sell them. How powerful is that? So if somebody types in the word hair loss, boom, I pay for it and I get the lead. So it's so much more powerful than anything else. So at this last meeting we went to, they were talking a little bit more about doing more, like advertising on YouTube. And there was a balance here. Ashley said, well, if you're going to spend a little more money, I need to see if it would be better spent on a little more on, are you maximizing your Google AdWords? Because if we go and advertise on YouTube and send more people your way, all that's going to do is make them search and go to Google. And if you're already getting all the leads you can for the amount of money you're spending on Google Ads, you might get more leads than you're actually paying to get. So you want to make sure you're maxing your AdWords out before you send more people toward you. So they've got this all figured out. I mean, nobody ever got it figured out perfectly, but they're the ones working on always trying to be the best at trying to figure it out, way ahead of me. And a lot of my friends are like, I can just do that myself. I said, yeah, well, go ahead. I thought
if you've got the time to sit there and do it consistently every day.
Right. There's parts of it I could do myself, but why? Why wouldn't I just focus on
I could cut my hair myself too, and I could color my hair myself.
Right.
It doesn't mean I'm going to do it better than you, or it's going to look good. So it's you're essentially like hiring somebody who has expertise in areas you don't. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's you're leaning on your other people's strengths. That's really what it comes down to.
And if you're going to, and it's again being efficient. If I'm going to spend an hour trying to figure out Google AdWords, I could make a lot more money spending that hour doing hair. So why not do hair, make the money, pay somebody else to do the marketing is how I look at it. So let's talk about the maps for a minute. That was powerful for me.
Yeah, what is this map pack? Is this like a DLC for some video game y'all playing? Like what is a map pack?
Map pack.
Map pack is a Google thing. It's basically, you know, when you search anything, especially local businesses, so you're going to have some ads at the top, and then the map pack is an extension they've now put in, which is like a map listing of all the businesses in proximity to you. And that kind of leads good into review services and review generation, because there's a couple of different things that Google is going to look at in order to start ranking you on that map. So you're essentially are at the mercy of Google a lot to just show you on the map. But they call these things ranking factors. So they'll use them to kind of rank you a little bit higher. Obviously, proximity is going to be number one. You know, if I'm not in Louisiana, I'm probably not going to get on stage near my map pack because I'm not near you. Proximity is a big thing to do with it. But then your reviews as well, even for ranking organically, have a pretty big say in how Google views your business. And they're doing it on ratings and how often you're getting reviews. So this is a big one. I know for my clients, people always say, well, nobody wants to leave a review because they don't want their name to be seen publicly. And you know what we've actually tried this with a couple of different studios and it's worked great. I tell them incentivize your staff. So tell your staff, you know, we're going to have a contest at the end of the month. Everybody the stylist that gets the most reviews gets a gift, whether that's cash, a gift card. So now you're incentivizing people to ask, because half of the battle is just asking people to leave you a review. And you do not know unless you ask. And if they say no, they say no. But it's really important nowadays to start getting people to leave you a review, especially with how personal our services are in the hair restoration side of things. You want to make sure that that person that's wondering whether they should go to you or not feels like you're a trusted source. So Google's going to use that as well as part of that ranking factor to make sure that you show up organically.
So when, like, I just looked myself up just to see, and I'm right up there at the top. So not only does my website come up, but then the map to my place. So it's just more of you at the top of the page. And a lot of people are not just trusting the search and seeing your name. Then they see the map and they're like, oh, let me see where they are before I even look into anything else about. If they're not close enough, maybe I don't care that they do hair in this area. So they look at the map, they see that I'm nearby. It's just a little bit more. And then you can click on the website from the map. You can click on call. You can see the hours there, because I guess maybe that's part of citation services, but also maybe it's just part of the public always correct and like, is everything correct here? Or you complain about something, you fix the hours. I just got aggravated with the local Walmart recently. My wife was sick over the weekend. She said, go get my prescription filled on a Sunday morning. And I said, the pharmacy's not open till 10. I'm here at 9. She says, no, it says it opened at 6 a.m. So I complained online while I'm sitting for an hour eating at Waffle House, waiting for Walmart to open, that Walmart neighborhood market opened at 6 a.m., but the pharmacy in the website, it said pharmacy opened at 6 also. It does not. It opens at 10. So their map and their information will be hopefully corrected, because it's a big company, you know, and they want people to not get pissed off from looking.
Right.
That's not the first word, Eddie, by the way. So
you keep telling me that.
But I think that's a great point, Bernard. It's not just about Google. It's also about the experience that someone's going to have. You know, if I'm going to call your studio and it's the wrong phone number, I'm just going to move on to the next one. You know,
right.
if I call you and it's like, you know, this number is disconnected, great. Well, I'm going to move on. I don't trust your business anymore. If I'm calling you during, you know, I'm making time during your business hours and they're wrong, I'm just going to get annoyed too. So then you're potentially getting somebody that's going to be upset at your brand and your studio because you couldn't have your information correct.
I love that. I love that. A lot of
just real quick, Eddie, you're going to make sure all her information's in the description, or at least through RJ, right?
Yes.
So if anybody wants to use enCOMPASS or has more questions, you'll say a little bit on here, but most people aren't going to remember. But at least by the end, Eddie will put in the description how to get in touch with enCOMPASS if you want to use them in the future. Go ahead, Eddie.
I think it's really important. I think the entire experience is really important, because at the end of the day, I am a firm believer that it's not about the price. And the reason why I believe that is because I am more expensive to come to see me at the salon, for me to do somebody's hair. I am more expensive than some people in my area. I'm not as expensive as other people in my area. But for the most part, my prices are my prices, and they feel good for me and they make sense for me. If you're comparing it side by side, some people are going to be shoppers for the price. But overall, there are more people out there that are willing to spend X amount of dollars for the experience, more so than for the price itself. More people are more willing to go out of their way to seek out that relationship like you're talking about, that organization. They want to be part of something, and that something's got to feel good and look good to them, you know?
Yeah.
I love what you're saying. That is awesome. It's something that a lot of hairdressers miss out on a lot. Bernard, how many classes we teach, and we see talented stylists, but they're not as productive and they're not as profitable as they potentially can be because they're trying to do too many things by themselves and they're not compartmentalizing and specializing, you know, different things. They're not putting everything in different baskets.
Yeah.
Go. 1, 2, 3, go.
Go.
Well, I think the part you mentioned earlier about hairspray, it's the truth with anything. You know, you can go cheaper at the beginning, but eventually what ends up happening, I mean, I've been a victim of this to simplify with vacuums, right? I have 2 and I tried to go the cheap vacuum route. And so you spend $100 now, then the vacuum breaks, you spend $100 the next time. And if, you know, you end up buying the Dyson anyways, because it's going to clean up the hair. So instead of buying the $500 Dyson up front, I am now $300 in crappy vacuums. And then I'm spending $500 on the Dyson anyways, because ultimately at the end of the day, you want results. And if you're not going to get them, you're going to switch. But if you go cheap the first time, I mean, I get so many you know, that's kind of the sad thing about the digital space nowadays is that Joe from the basement can do marketing and they can really ruin that experience for everybody. So it's like, oh yeah, digital advertising doesn't work. And it's like, no, it didn't work with Joe from the basement, but it does work when you trust a reliable company. Joe from the basement.
Joe.
The name Joe has gotten beat up for the past few years now. I tell you, come on, Joe. You suck at plumbing. You suck at vacuuming. Now you suck at advertising.
Yeah, and he's married to Karen.
And he's married to Karen.
I mean, Joe and Karen, if they could just get a life, I swear.
Oh, man. All right. So then somebody gets to that level where they're ready to start advertising, right? And so how does play out a little bit? How does that process work? They reach out to you guys. They set up a meeting.
I went through my whole list and getting ready to say we're done, but you're right. It's a tiny bit overwhelming at first. I mean, there's no hurry, but you feel a little pressure because they say, all right, Bernard, you're ready to start spending money with us? Yes. And then, I mean, it was a lot more sales pitch than that. And then it's like, okay, well, we're not going to start for 3 months. What? Like, we have to gather some information. I don't think I have 3 months of information to give. And they're like, we just don't want to rush you. We know you're busy. We're going to give you some stuff to
how does that play out?
So I'll let her explain more of that. And then we're kind of close to done.
Okay, cool. So what Bernard's talking about, you know, well, the first step is always just reach out, you know, let's get on a phone call and let's talk about what your needs are, where you're at. It is overwhelming, but that's what we're here for, is kind of to simplify what you need and what your next steps are. That 3-month mark Bernard's talking about is for websites. So for that template website, it does take about, you know, that three-month mark, and it really is dependent on how fast you're able to give us information, information about your salon. We go through a copy call where you'll sit with a copywriter and they'll listen to your voice and hear your story about your studio, and then actually write the copy that matches your tone of voice. How do you want to convey? How do you want to be, you know, displayed to the people that come to your website?
So somebody can actually understand my accent and my language? Because Bernard doesn't understand me.
Well,
for you, Eddie.
There'd be...
If they understand Bernard, they can understand you.
You hear that?
Yeah.
Go on. Go on.
So after that, we'll go through.
Because I'm just a dumb Southerner.
I'm Cuban, so we got it all covered.
You're a little more South than me.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll go through that, and then you'll get to pick the colors of your site. So that's kind of what takes that 3-month mark. But we won't start advertising till that website is live. So we really push out that true commitment to the advertising to where we think we're ready to convert those leads. Because that's really important. I mean, we don't want to waste your money. And so if we're, you know, a lot of people don't have a really strong website, we say, hold on. And Bernard, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's worth waiting, because you don't want to throw money out there that's not going to get you that return on investment.
That's another good point. There's all of these things we talked about have different price tags attached. You don't have to use everything, but they recommend them bare minimum. And so let's just, I don't know, I checked off like 6 things here. I don't know if each one has its own price tag, but there's 4 or 5 different things you're paying for. And you don't start paying for all of them now and then start advertising in 3 months. So you're not like losing money. Some of these things you do start paying for ahead of time because you're making a website. But a lot of these things, like the Google AdWords, you don't start paying for it till you start using it 3 months later. When it goes live, you pay then. So it's all kind of broken up over the time, the information and the amount you're going to be paying to use these services.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Do you guys do consultations? So say somebody's watching this, they're getting motivated, they're liking what they're hearing, they're still not sure if it is for them or if it's not. They can still reach out and get some kind of a consult with you guys. And
yeah, I encourage it. And a lot of people will even send me that, walk through analytics together. Because if you have, let's walk through what you're currently doing and I'll analyze what they're doing and see where we can help. So yeah, consultations, just like you guys, are free. You guys can call, reach out, and then we can walk through what you're doing, where you can grow, all that good stuff. Why are you laughing, Bernard?
You think I bought on the first phone call with her? Now, it was this girl here that was my first conversation. They sent an email out. I was going to the American Hair Loss Council show. Okay. Actually, it was in California where I was checking it out before we ended up going the next year and having a booth. And when you go to that show, your contact information is sent out to all the other vendors. They were a vendor. And so they were smart because they're a marketing company. They basically said, would you like to have a conversation before you end up at the hair show so we can finalize details there? And I thought, yeah, why not? It's free. I'll make the call. I don't know. I clicked on something. I made the call. I talked to her. And then she's, it's nice talking to you. We'll go over more detail. We talked maybe more than once, at least twice.
Yeah,
then I show up at the show, find another marketing company, and he starts writing stuff down. I'm bringing it back to her. This is what he said he could do for me. And then, so it was a real, I was like, this way. And she's like, yeah, that's what he said. But what about this? Oh, I didn't even think about that. I'll be right back. So,
Bernard was playing all sides.
I went back and forth between them and another marketing company over 2 days. And then still waited a few weeks, got back, talked to my partner, RJ. I said, I really like this company, enCOMPASS. This other company is pretty good, but I don't think he has the experience in it. I don't think he's going to do as much. He might do great for his customers. I don't know. But and I'm still good friends with that other guy. I mean, I saw him at this last hair show. We ate together. We did things together. He's a nice guy. It's just that I didn't think he was going to be able to give us in the marketing world what we wanted. I felt like they had much more experience in the hair replacement. And then we threw a little caveat out there for us. And a lot of our customers are like this. So it might help you guys out to know this. We knew that if they were just marketing hair replacement, that's just one thing. Hair extensions is another high-end service that we do. So we're like, could you throw in hair extensions? And the 1 or 2 extra hair extension clients we get a week or a month, depending on the month, helps pay for this ad too. So in my experience, I have found if you advertise hair extensions to women, even if they need hair replacement, it's a lot easier for them psychologically to say, oh, I could get hair extensions, or that might solve my problem. Let me look into that first, because I don't really want, because hair replacement, it sounds aggressive. Some people think it's surgery. Some people think it means you have to shave your head. So they get a little scared of the word hair replacement, mostly because there's a lot of unknown associated with hair restoration or hair replacement. And so hair extensions, most ladies think they understand it a little bit better, and they'll come in for that consultation or make that phone call easier. And to be honest, we steer them whichever way is better for them. Some come in for a hair replacement ad, and we're like, you know what? Hair extensions would solve your problem. And they're happy about that. Or vice versa. They come in for extensions, and it's like, sorry, ma'am, you really need hair replacement. And so sometimes we just do a wig. It just depends on the client and the need. Goodbye, everyone.
Well, that's right. That's what we got. I don't know. Any final? Did we miss anything, Elizabeth? Any final thoughts you got?
You get to close us, Elizabeth.
I could talk for 3 hours on marketing, honestly. But yeah, just the first step is just always. It's like any client that you're kind of talking to. Is like the first step is just get a consultation, see where you're at. We're more than happy to walk through, and we're honest too. If you have a good website that's converting. We also could work, we work with clients in the past who have had a website over time they convert to ours anyways. But you know, we can start you off there. So it's just being that open and honest conversation of where you're at and what your needs are. So the consultation's honestly just the first step.
I love that. Consultation is always the first step.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think. If you have questions, yeah, I'll work with RJ. We'll get all of your information in the description below. So then this way people know how to reach out to you all. Thank you for spending the time with us today. Bernard, good to see you.
Both.
Everybody, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next week.